This story starts in a place smaller than Wales, a sliver of land between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. For some, it's Israel. For others, Palestine. For everyone, it's home. But it's a home layered with thousands of years of history, of faith, of conflict. To understand today, you have to go back, way back. Walk through the dust of ancient kingdoms, hear the echoes of prayers whispered into stones. This isn't just about politics, it's about identity. Identity tied to the very soil under your feet, centuries deep and fiercely protected. For Palestinians, the connection is just as deep, just as real. They are the descendants of the countless peoples who have lived on this land for centuries. The Canaanites, the Philistines, the farmers and merchants who worked this soil long before and long after the ancient Jewish kingdoms. Their identity is woven into the olive groves that their great-grandparents planted, trees that are hundreds, sometimes thousands of years old. Their history is in the architecture of Nablus, the ancient port of Jaffa, and the Christian and Muslim holy sites that have been centers of their communities for generations. They too see this place as their sacred inheritance, a continuous presence that defines who they are. This ancient history is not some forgotten prologue. It's the very air people breathe here. Both narratives are powerful. Both are rooted in genuine, deeply felt connections to the same small piece of earth. A Jewish Israeli will tell you they are returning home. A Palestinian Arab will tell you they have always been home. For 400 years, from 1517 to 1917, this land was part of a huge empire, the Ottoman Empire. Based in what we now call Turkey, a vast multicultural state. Under the Ottomans, Palestine wasn't a country as we know it today. It was a collection of districts, part of a wider region known as Greater Syria. For the most part, communities lived side by side. Jews, Christians, a majority Muslim Arab population. They shared cities, markets, and a life governed from a distant capital, Istanbul. There were tensions, of course, but the idea of a national conflict between Jews and Arabs simply didn't exist like it does now. Life was mostly rural, the village, the family, and the seasons. In cities like Jerusalem, Hebron, Saft, ancient Jewish communities continued to live and pray, often supported by donations from Jews abroad. The majority were Arabic-speaking peasants, fellahin, who farmed the land their families had worked for generations. World War I tore the Middle East apart. The Ottoman Empire sided with Germany and lost. Britain, looking to secure its interests, made a series of promises, vague, contradictory, devastating. To the Arabs, independence in return for fighting the Ottomans. To their French allies, a secret carve-up. And in 1917, a third, crucial promise. It was called the Balfour Declaration, a short letter from the British Foreign Secretary to a leader of the British Jewish community. It changed everything. The declaration stated that the British government viewed with favour the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. For Zionists, a monumental victory. A major power backed their dream. For the Arabs of Palestine, over 90% of the population, this was a catastrophe, a betrayal. Assurances about existing communities felt hollow. After the war, Britain governed Palestine under a mandate until self-rule. But who would rule? Jewish immigration surged, fueled by rising Nazism. New towns sprung up, land was purchased, sometimes displacing tenant farmers. The Jewish community built schools, hospitals, a political leadership, even a paramilitary force. The Second World War ended, but the horrors of the Holocaust left the world reeling. The murder of 6 million Jews in Europe created urgent support for the Zionist cause. Britain, exhausted, turned to the United Nations. In November 1947, the UN proposed a partition plan, 2 states, 1 Arab, 1 Jewish, with Jerusalem international. The Jewish leadership accepted. The Arab world rejected it as unjust, awarding over half the land to a minority who owned less than 10%. Fighting broke out between militias. On May 14, 1948, Israel declared independence. For Jews, triumph, a 2,000-year-old dream, a haven after persecution. For Palestinians, catastrophe, the Nakba. The next day, 5 Arab armies invaded. The First Arab-Israeli War had begun. By 1949, Israel survived and expanded to 78% of Mandate Palestine. The West Bank went to Jordan, Gaza to Egypt. The human cost was staggering. Over 700,000 Palestinians fled or were expelled. They ended up in camps, expecting to return in weeks. Weeks, months, years, decades. They have never been allowed to return. For nearly 2 decades after 1948, an uneasy quiet lay over the lines. It wasn't peace, more a cold war with raids. Israel absorbed hundreds of thousands, including many fleeing persecution in Arab countries. Palestinians languished in camps, their plight a rallying cry. The PLO formed, pledging armed struggle. By June 1967, after threats and blockades, Israel struck first. In 6 days, Israel defeated Egypt, Jordan and Syria, redrawing the map. Israel seized the Sinai, Gaza, the Golan Heights, the West Bank and East Jerusalem. For Israelis, euphoric, a miracle, Jerusalem reunited, the wall under Jewish control. A movement claimed divine inheritance, never to be surrendered. Settlements began in the newly conquered territories. For Palestinians, a second Nakba, another million under military rule. Occupation became daily reality. Soldiers, checkpoints, military law. Families were separated, land confiscated, movement restricted. A Palestinian state seemed further away. The conflict now about land under military control. By the late 1980s, a generation knew only occupation, restrictions, frustrations, powerlessness. The PLO was in exile. The region had moved on. In December 1987, a traffic accident in Gaza killed 4 Palestinian workers. Rumors said it was deliberate. Protests spread. The First Intifada, a grassroots uprising of mass protests, strikes, boycotts, civil disobedience, and violence. Images of teenagers with slingshots facing rifles shifted perceptions worldwide. The Intifada made the occupation costly for Israel and taught Palestinians they had to lead their own struggle. Secret talks began, unthinkable dialogue. In 1993, Arafat and Rabin shook hands. Hope felt real. Oslo set a roadmap and created the Palestinian Authority to govern parts of the West Bank and Gaza. Final issues, Jerusalem, refugees, settlements, borders, were to be negotiated within 5 years. Extremists struck, Hamas bombings. Then Rabin was assassinated. The hope began to fade, a fragile light flickering. The optimism of the 1990s collapsed at Camp David in 2000. Each side blamed the other. Israelis citing a generous offer, Palestinians saying it was fragmented, limited, and failed on Jerusalem and refugees. A second, deadlier uprising began. Waves of suicide bombings targeted civilians, killing over 1,000 Israelis and traumatizing society. Israel responded with massive force, re-entering PA areas, imposing closures, and targeted assassinations. Thousands of Palestinians were killed, towns devastated. Peace felt like a naive dream. Israel built a massive barrier for security, but the route cut deep into the West Bank, enclosing settlement blocks. It separated Palestinians from farms, schools, and jobs. Palestinians call it the apartheid wall. Meanwhile, settlements expanded, creating facts on the ground. Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005. Hopes rose, then Hamas seized control in 2007. A tight blockade followed. Goods stalled at crossings, wars erupted, Gaza's economy collapsed into humanitarian crisis. For Israelis, rockets and sirens persist, a constant threat. The two-state solution now seems further away than ever. Today, the situation feels stuck. The peace process is gone. The two-state solution is on life support. On the ground, two peoples live separate and unequal lives. Israelis live in a prosperous, high-tech country with a hum of security threats and deep divisions. They serve in the army. They live with the fear of attacks. Many feel unfairly judged, their need for security unseen. Many on the right see the West Bank as biblical right. Many on the left seek to end the occupation and preserve Israel's character. Across the wall, Palestinians live under occupation and limited self-rule. They navigate checkpoints to work or see family. They watch settlements expand. Many feel abandoned by divided leaders and the world. In Gaza, a young generation grows up trapped by war and blockade. And yet life continues. People marry, raise families, start businesses, create art. A generation grows up apart, separated by walls, fear, history, and competing narratives, learning through conflict and stories. Still, there are flickers of light. People who refuse to be enemies, healers, builders, activists, families, seeking understanding.